10 corona vaccine candidates are now in late-stage trials. The world is celebrating what could be the breakthrough in fighting COVID-19. Pharmaceutical companies are also cheering. The public sector has invested billions more in development, but it's the private sector that will rake in the cash. Under existing agreements, they control the price and get the profits. Pharma firms say that's fair. Development is expensive and time-consuming, and results are not guaranteed. It's a gamble for governments too, which are reserving millions of doses of a vaccine they hope will work. Still, other coronaviruses could come along. Vaccines could become Big Pharma's new cash cow. Well, of the 20 largest pharmaceutical companies, only 4 had special vaccine units last year. Now everyone's getting in on the act, which is great, but they're using our money and can charge what they want. One of our guests this week said some developers promise to only charge the cost price. It could even be cheaper than the flu vaccine. Let's see what happens.
It's a race everyone wants to win. Whoever makes the first successful COVID-19 vaccine also stands to make a fortune. Coronavirus vaccines are potentially blockbuster products. We are talking billions of dollars in revenue. Part of the funding for the vaccine research is public money, but the profits stay in private hands. The companies can secure exclusive licenses to a vaccine and ultimately decide on a price because they have a monopoly on the patent. The race to find the vaccine is in full swing, and 2 German companies are among the leaders in the field: CureVac in Tübingen and BioNTech in Mainz, which this week announced promising early results from its phase 3 clinical trial. Both are working on vaccines using messenger RNA. mRNA vaccines take a snippet of the coronavirus's genome to begin a defensive response without exposing it to the actual virus. mRNA essentially teaches the body to fight a dummy of the virus to help make it immune. Research into this technology has been going on for 20 years and involved billions in public money and private investment. But developing vaccines is highly risky. An active ingredient or vaccine candidate can fail at any stage in clinical trials because of a lack of efficacy or safety issues. That means developing treatments has major development and financial risks. Which is why pharma companies turn to public funding. This is then distributed by groups like the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI, which is co-funding development of several COVID-19 vaccine candidates. The main focus of this cooperation with CEPI is to produce a vaccine as quickly as possible and get it to the people. The commercial side is secondary for now. Although vaccine development is co-funded, companies own licenses and distribution. Based on this, they relaxed the rules that would have ensured that CEPI retains intellectual property rights and ensured a vaccine that is affordable for everyone and widely accessible. Pharmaceutical companies stand to make huge profits if they succeed in coming up with a vaccine. If an mRNA-based product successfully comes onto the market, that opens the door to a flood of similar vaccines and active ingredients. That offers great opportunities. Public funding could earn billions for private firms. The fear is biotech companies can name their price for access to this powerful pandemic-fighting weapon.
Professor of Public Economics Massimo Florio joins us. Do you have a problem with public funds being used to develop a vaccine for this coronavirus?
In the current emergency, I do not have any problem. I think there is absolutely no alternative to disburse such funds. I do hope that governments will be able to negotiate on prices and other conditions, but I don't think there are alternatives. The issue is what we are going to do the next time. But the governments are in a bad negotiating position, aren't they? I mean, they're giving
these big pharma companies free rein. They can do what they want, and when they do develop the vaccine, name their price.
This is why I say that it is important for the future not to be stuck in this bad negotiating position and developing by governments or possibly by a coalition of governments their own research and development capacity in this area.
Well, the private firms, of course, are about making a buck. But is that one of the reasons why we weren't ready for this outbreak?
Yes, I think so. The problem is that governments have entirely delegated to the private pharma industry the research and development of the weapons against pathogens and other diseases. But here there is a risk of disconnection, of misalignment between the public health agenda and the private agenda. If you are a pharma company, a manager of a pharma company, you have investors, financial investors, you are listed in the stock exchange, you have to show results in the short term. So you are less interested in the longer term and in pharma, which are less profitable than others. I think we need something else to protect ourselves in the future.
So is that disconnect with us and with our health, is that why a doctor who developed a vaccine for SARS the year after the pandemic, which was caused by a strain of coronavirus, didn't get the funding for clinical trials?
Yes, there is a testimony of Professor Ortiz at the U.S. Congress. It is rather a revealing example about the fact that after the first clear cases of a risk related to coronavirus, that a vaccine was needed, and he and his team were working on that, but in their testimony they say that they have never been able to get funding for that because the coronavirus and in general all the research on viruses and antibiotics resistant to pathogens resistant to antibiotics is not really in the focus of the big pharma. So we need something else. We need a mechanism not based on the priorities of financial investors. We need a mechanism based on the priorities of public health with a long-run perspective.
Just summing up really briefly, SARS obviously didn't change anything. Will this outbreak change something?
Well, I think so, because the alarm bells were there even 20 years ago, but for some reasons the epidemics were in certain places and not such a global factor. So I do think that there will be a change. The European Union will step in. There is some evidence that the European Union will try and step in, because unfortunately the expert consensus is that this is not going to be the last time that we'll experience this kind of problems.
Important point to finish on. Massimo Florio, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And if you've got a question about vaccines or anything related to the coronavirus, write to us on our YouTube channel. DW Science correspondent Derek Williams will look into it.
How could we solve the issue of a messenger RNA vaccine cold chain at a reasonable cost? I heard it was negative 80 degrees Celsius.
If the interim results on efficacy from the candidate vaccine made by BioNTech and Pfizer hold up to scrutiny, and if it clears hurdles involving safety by the end of November, as hoped, those are two big ifs, then some countries could approve it quickly, maybe even by the end of the year. By then, the companies say they'll have already produced enough doses to vaccinate between 15 and 20 million people, and they should have production capacity for over 1 billion more in 2021. Manufacturing infrastructure has been set up in parallel with the trials to speed the whole process up. But as you say, there's a big hurdle to overcome with this particular vaccine, which is that it has to be kept at extremely cold temperatures, under minus 70 degrees Celsius, to remain stable for any length of time. And that'll be expensive. The logistics of it was always going to be a nightmare. I mean, every step of the cold chain in the delivery process has to be as foolproof as you can make it, and you have to train people to work with stuff at temperatures that low. Pfizer has even been building special containers for keeping its doses that cold. The good news is that they don't spoil instantly after thawing, but they also keep at normal refrigerator temperatures for around 5 days, which makes the task maybe slightly less impossible. But don't forget, there are many other vaccines going through late-stage trials that might also prove safe and effective. And some of them are based on other platforms with formulations that don't have to be kept at temperatures that low or anywhere close to it. With luck, one or more of them will prove safe and effective too, and can be used in places that don't have high-tech cold chain infrastructure.